Thank you for joining us tonight, Mr. Weiner.
Thanks to see you again.
We have known each other a very long time, so I'm going to cut right to it. When are you going to make it official that you're running for mayor?
Well, as Yogi Berra would say, it's getting late early. I mean, I don't have a lot of time now. I mean, really the beginning of June and July is when petitions go out on the street, so it's going to be a matter of days or maybe weeks, but not much more than that.
What does your heart tell you right now?
You know, one of the things I've wanted to do is to start people talking about ideas, and I'm finding it's happening, and you know, people are stopping me in the street, and you know, people are talking about the booklet I put out and the 64 ideas. But I have been heartened. I mean, look, I'm very surprised at how well we were doing in the polls to start with. That, you know, so many people seem willing to give me a second chance and a second look, and that's gratifying. But, you know, there's a lot that goes into making a decision like this. One thing I know is that I want to have a conversation about ideas, and I want to make sure that we're moving the ball forward in New York City. I care a lot about these same issues you and I have been talking about for years, so I haven't stopped caring about those things.
Mr. Weiner, I'll get to everything here in the time that you've been gracious to allow us. But you mentioned the polls, so let's talk about that for a second. Pretty impressive coming out the gate, #2, behind Christine Quinn. But the one thing the other candidates tell me off the record about those same polls is that, look, Anthony Weiner is at 100% name recognition. He can only go down from here. There's no going up.
Well, you know, I'll let the pundits figure out how to read the polls, but I think there are a lot of people who have legitimate questions. You know, they knew the Anthony Weiner that has been in public life his entire life, that served in the city council representing southern Brooklyn and fought to clean up graffiti. I think you might have covered the story. You know, I started something called Weiner's Cleaners to clean graffiti, take kids who are at-risk kids rather than send them to jails, you know, to put them to work cleaning up the community. Served seven terms in the United States Congress, you know, fighting for health care, fighting for the 9/11 bill and things like that. And then there's this personal behavior that was so embarrassing, that hurt my wife so much, that so people have a right to ask, you know, how do we assess him? And I guess what I would ask, assess me by all of it. Look at all of it. And I'm very sorry for the things that I did. First and foremost, I did them to my wife, and working for her forgiveness has been my primary job. But I'm also very sorry to my constituents because I let them down. And to be honest with you, I'm also sorry to you. I mean, I was dishonest to members of the media who asked me about these things. So when people want to figure out how to assess me, people do it through their own lens. I know someone stopped me just this morning on the way to the subway and asked me about the public schools. And, like, you know, she's got a young child like I do. Are the public schools still the way they were when we were kids? And so I think most New Yorkers are interested in a frame of conversation which is about the future of their families, the future of New York City. But it's perfectly reasonable for people to ask questions about the other stuff. I brought it on myself.
Well, you went there. So are you more ashamed about what you did or the fact that you lied about it?
Well, what I did was dishonorable to my wife. What was dishonest to her. And that's the crime. That's the thing that I did wrong. That personal behavior that I did such damage to someone who didn't deserve it. And we've spent a lot of time working through it. You know, my wife likes to say it's in our rearview mirror, but it's not far. You know, and every day I, you know, start with an apology on my lips. I'm sure it'll be that way with a long time. And she's forgiven me and given me a second chance.
Every day?
Well, not literally, but it's there. You know, I don't know how to put it to be, you know, it's something that we work through every day. And because I created this enormous strain in our relationship. It's an enormous amount of love that we have with one another. Now, as embarrassed as I was, I should have been honest with her. I should have been. I should have just been honest with her. And as embarrassed as I was, and the fact that I was dishonest to her, I shouldn't have been dishonest to anyone else. You know, it's the first words that Huma said after she said, "I can't believe it," were, "You can't be dishonest about this anymore." So people say it's not the crime, it's the cover-up. I'll let other people decide that. I know that for me, I was embarrassed because of something I did to my wife. I was dishonest to her, and everything else spun from that.
In private moments, Mr. Weiner, any time you break down in tears in the past?
Oh, yeah.
Is that therapeutic for you now, or?
I don't do it because I don't know. I don't sit and say, let me turn on and cry. I mean, but yeah, this was look, New Yorkers know what this was. I did these things. These were personal things that I did that were played out in an embarrassing way for the world to see. So at the same time that I had to try to repair my marriage, I had this public maelstrom going on around. It was an enormous amount going on, and I think that it's something that obviously takes the deepest emotional toll. And you combine that with the idea that so many people out there have put their faith in me. And so, you know, look, I've got enormous blessings. I'm in many ways a very lucky man. I've got a wife who stuck with me. I've got a 16-month-old at home who, you know, loves me throughout it. So I'm very lucky, but I'll let someone else decide what was the worst thing about what I did. I know it was a very bad thing, and I'm very sorry for it.
City councilmen, I think for the most part, the other candidates in the race for mayor, notice I said the other candidates, I think that they don't know how to handle you just yet. Publicly, they don't know how. But one of them has come out, former city councilman, someone you know, Sal Albanese, and his exact words, quoting him, is that it's comical that you want to enter the race for mayor. You respond in what way?
Look, if I run for mayor, we'll have plenty of opportunities to have a conversation about where we differ. You know, I would ask that all the candidates, if they want to figure out how to handle, let's start with keystotocity.org. That's 64 ideas. Maybe they agree with some, maybe they disagree with some. You know, some are things that already a couple of the candidates have picked up. I think they really honor the debate by having the debate, whether I'm in it or not. And if someone doesn't want to have an idea issue, and they want to focus on personal things, they're free to do it. I brought it on myself, and we'll leave it to the citizens of New York which thing they think is more important.
I remember in 2005 that debate where you did so well with the one-liners. Some guy, some washed up guy.
One of us or both of us is getting old, Dominic. I got news for you.
Yeah, I have less hair now, Mr. Weiner. But a lot of one-liners where you shot almost to the top of that field. You did remarkably well. You made it to the runoff with Fernando Ferrer, and then you did something that's extremely rare for Democrats. In the name of party unity, not wanting to stand in the place of the first possible Latino mayor, you pulled out of the race and backed out. So we know that should you enter this, you're a serious contender. So the Democrats that are debating tonight, in just a few minutes, about 45 minutes from now, what do you make of that field? Is it a good field? Is it a weak field? Obviously, if you're considering entering, you find something wrong with the field.
Well, look, I mean, first, I'm thinking about it seriously, and by the way, that is basically the frame. Not so much is the field strong or weak, but are there ideas that are emerging? Is this moving in a direction that I think I can contribute something to? You know, I have said before, you know, we as Democrats, we as progressives who care about, making progress every year, we don't deserve to win elections if we don't have new ideas to animate what people like to touch their lives. We can't, it's not enough just to say, I ain't the other guy, or I'm not the predecessor, or I'm not Giuliani, or I'm not Bloomberg. It's got to be something more substantial to that. And I think one of the things that we found out, and you always honored this in your coverage, is that people care about issues, They want to know what you're going to do about the schools. They care about how their middle-class taxes have been going up because their property values have been rising even though they can't move. They care about the idea that you know what, you can find an affordable place to live at Homestead in some neighborhood in our community and watch it grow up around you like my parents did in the 60s. It doesn't really exist anymore. So I want to see that debate happen. And maybe it'll happen without me, but you know what? If it doesn't, it's going to happen with me.
How do you assess Christine Quinn as Speaker of the City Council?
I like Christine. I mean, she and I have been together in public life for a long time. For me, the term limit thing was a deal breaker, though, I must confess. You jumped from 2005 to today. We were supposed to have an election in between there that I had some eyes on. I think that is when the citizens vote, that creates a scaffolding, a foundation on which everything else that government does rests, good and bad. When citizens decide something in a referendum, that scaffolding exists. When you decide to heck with it, I'm going to get rid of the voice of the people. I don't care what they think. I've got a better idea. I think it's so important that I continue to serve or the mayor continues to serve. To me, it undermines the very foundation of our government. So on that one issue is kind of like one that stuck in my craw more than others, but overall I think the people running for mayor are decent people, and they're people with whom I've worked over the years. And I'm not going to get into the race because I out of animus towards them. It's going to be because I have a different vision.
When you say deal breaker with Christine Quinn, what does that mean?
I don't think I could vote for her.
Even in the general?
I hadn't contemplated that formulation. Ask me then. I've never voted for a Republican in my life. I think my arm might fall off if I did, so I'll have to cross that bridge when I get to it.